It's been just over a week since the deadly shooting at Appalachia High School in Barrow County that left 4 people dead and 9 others injured. We sat down with Barrow County Sheriff Judd Smith just inside the old historic Barrow County Courthouse to talk about what happened inside the school that day, the law enforcement response to it, and what the community will be facing in terms of healing moving forward.
Well, from the law enforcement aspect, I think that our training and the knowledge that we've been given and the tests and the drills that we went through worked for the most part. As far as personally, I'm still very heartbroken. We lost 4 people, 2 teachers, 2 students. We had 9 injured, and then the countless others that were injured physically and mentally. This takes a mental toll on those kids, those teachers. So, it's still almost surreal when you think about it. Not Winder, not Barrow County, not Bethlehem, not this community, but it happened. And so we have to work with it. We have to figure out how to pick up the pieces and try to figure out what we can do better in the future, and then what we can learn from this, and what it's going to do to us when you think about all the other prior active shooters or mass shootings, if you will, in this type of situation. So it's a little surreal. When I go home at night and I spend time with my wife or my kids, I kind of zone out and just try to figure out why. I don't know that I'll ever know why, but it's just still surreal. I was at my desk. I'm answering emails. Normal morning. I have my routine that I go through, and I have the Centegix alert system on my cell phone. I'm one of a handful that has it at the office, and the first alert came in, then the second one, then the third one, then the fourth one, and I thought, this thing's malfunctioning. It's not working right. So I'm like looking at that, and so I come walking out of my office, and one of my majors comes running down the hall to me, and he says, "We have a shooter at Appalachia." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "There's a shooter. We have an active shooter at Appalachia." So I take off, run outside. I get my vest. I put it on. I grab my vest real quick, and I start putting it on, get it on, and I don't even remember getting it on good. And I get and run code all the way to Appalachia, and I went straight down Broad Street, and I got there and got out, and I actually intercepted. The SRO was there last year. I couldn't hear anything on the radio. I couldn't hear everybody screaming and yelling, talking. I didn't know where we were going. So I get out, and by the grace of God, the former SRO that was moved to another school, he's telling me J Hall, and I'm following him. And he has arrived from another school, and he has an actual rifle. And I grab 2 of the EMTs. I'm like, let's go. And we go in the building and we start clearing and start figuring it out, what's going to happen. And so that's where I was at.
What can you tell me about what went down inside the school that day?
Absolutely. So I personally, there's a lot of things, and it's no secret I'm a very faithful person. I will say that up front. I don't mind sharing my faith in God, and so there's a lot of God things, and God had His hand on this. Not the horrible part of it, but as far as the incident goes, and I'll kind of discuss some of those instances and whatnot. Basically, I have 2 SROs at each high school, and at this one, I had the 2 that were normally assigned to that school. One of the sergeants who was on scene was there to bring a Bible to one of his mentors mentees that he mentors through an Explorer program. He was there, and so timing could not have been better for that. And basically, the situation was we were looking for this particular student. There are a lot of information, and I'll say misinformation, and I'll say it from the national media, from the family members of Colt Gray and the family members of Colin Gray that are misinforming the public that we knew about it an hour ahead of time, or we knew about it a week before, and that's completely false. His mother did call, and we did act, but as far as acting, when she called, she had spoke to someone in the school, and she had advised them that my son was acting strange. She's reporting that, and there's reports out there that saying that my son's going to do this. They were concerned. She was concerned about his behavior and what was going on. But what I want to be very clear is that our SROs went into action pretty quickly. And we went down and we were attempting to find him, but there was a student with an extremely similar name to him in the same classroom. And ultimately, as far as investigation goes, there's another portion of that piece of the puzzle that was even eerily hard to deal with, but we went and got the other student, brought him up front, and while the sergeant and the other full-time SRO was there, because the sergeant's not full-time, the other SRO had gotten this other student and brought him up, the shooting began. So my sergeant, and we're not really revealing their names, I'm hoping that when they feel good, that they can do an interview like this for some healing. But both SROs began running to the fight. They heard the gunshots. They turned the corner. They were approximately 75 yards away from Colt Gray, who was brandishing a semi-automatic AR-style rifle, and they ran towards him. 100% of the time, if Colt Gray pulls the trigger towards our deputies, they probably don't make it out. We will never know why he didn't shoot. Only he can say. They charged him, giving him verbal commands with handguns and not a rifle. On top of doing that, had they had to engage him with deadly force, they had to be sure that they didn't miss for fear of hitting someone else or an innocent bystander or a ricochet going into a classroom. Now, mind you, the doors were closed, but the sheer bravery of those two simply had no regard for their safety. And I can tell you that they were shrouded in angels and God had them protected, and he complied. Had he not complied, they would have handled business. They could have been killed as well. And unfortunately, we're left to pick up the pieces. So that is in a nutshell what happened. The teachers acted like they've been told. They are just as brave, in my opinion. The ERF teams that went inside with us are just as brave, unarmed, not knowing what they're walking into. And so just extremely proud, and I kind of bounced around to what happened that day. But when I went in, it was chaos. It was uncertainty and chaos, but our training kicked in, and our training of clearing rooms and doing what we were supposed to do kicked in. And so now the hard part is now making sure that we, and this is, a lot of people say, well, how can you say this? We got to make sure that Colt and Colin have a fair trial. That's what we have to do. And so we're going to hope the prosecution and the jury will do what needs to happen and move forward. So in the meantime, we're going to pick up pieces. Anything that we can look back at and say, what could have been done better, you can what if this all day long. And there's hundreds of thousands of Monday morning quarterbacks that are going to say what they would do or how they would handle it. But yes, we plan on doing that. What we did as a group and as a team, and when I say us, the sheriff's office and the fire department with these ERF teams was unprecedented. I'm sure they mentioned that. I can't brag on those guys enough. Rendering aid while gunfire may or may not be going on is unprecedented. And I can equally say that we believe 4 people are living today and will hopefully celebrate a Thanksgiving and a Christmas and another birthday next year because we acted and did not wait going in and stage as law enforcement or as emergency responders, and I believe that happened. Yes, we plan on looking at it and reassessing what we could do different in the future if God forbid we ever have to deal with it again in any type situation.
places multiple counties away
Sure.
that responded to this scene. What did that mean for you, and how did that coordination work once they got on scene in terms of trying to, you've got a lot of different, hands at play there trying to make sure that everything kind of stayed organized?
Proud. Because Barrow County would go to them in a second. Our agency would go as quickly as possible and as needed. But the biggest part that I'm proud of the most is the response. But the fact that people were willing to walk up in our command post and say, I got this, I'm taking care of this, I'm documenting this, from other agencies. I got this handled, Sheriff, I got this handled, Chief. Well, we had people stand at the doors of that school for 7-8 hours and never took a bathroom break, never got food. So there are a lot of people that stepped up, and those were not only state partners, those were some federal partners that did that. So, I mean, there was a lot of people. So, again, short answer, I'm proud. I'm proud of where I've come from, where I live, because I can tell you that I don't know that we would have this response somewhere else in other states where we're supported. Obviously, we're looking for all different ideas of why did we know, how could we prevent, and the first thing is you're like, you got to be kidding me. We knew this was going to happen. We kind of knew the warning was there. And looking at all that Sheriff Mangum provided us in the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, I felt like they did the job that was tasked to them to do a year ago. I've seen videos and stuff of this investigator going out and interviewing Colin and Colt both. Now I think where maybe the I guess disconnect is reporting it to maybe the school system that this may have happened. But I think what the Jackson County Sheriff's Office did is not much different than what Barrow County. I'm not placing the blame on anybody or not, but if we would have went out, we would have done probably the same thing. And there was no probable cause based on what they had or what information the FBI provided to the Jackson County Sheriff's Office to make an arrest as a juvenile or in that type of situation. Common sense would say you need to let where this kid goes to school, you need to let your state partners, if it's a family situation through DFACs or things like that, we need to know these sort of things. And so I hope in the future that there are things put in place that we make sure and check off some boxes or a report or something that gets filed with the state that this person is a person of interest, if you will. I make it very clear in Barrow County, we've always taken them seriously. I think Jackson County took it seriously based on their actions. Now, whether or not the disconnect somewhere in there and in between them and whoever need to go next, I think that needs to be discussed. And I think that if we can come to the table and say, how can we fix it? Because legislators have said, how can we prevent this? And I told them, I said, and this is cliche to say, I don't think you can legislate hate and hatefulness, but you can certainly put things in place policy-wise that can help us in the future. I'm not surprised at all with the community. I'm not surprised with us coming together. Unfortunately, in tragedy, you have to come together. I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised at the response of the agencies around me. That's what we do here, and that's what we will continue to do here. And it may take 25, 30 years like the healing is from today. Today's a huge day in American history on 9/11, and we still remember where we were at. I'm always going to remember where I was at September the 4th, 2024. I'm going to remember what I was doing. I'm going to remember that, where I was at my desk and how the call came in. I'm going to remember that. But I'm very happy that I live in Barrow County. I'm happy I was born and raised here. I'm happy that the people that I work with shoulder to shoulder and side by side, that we're all the same, and titles aside and politics aside, we love each other and the communities come together. And that's the most amazing part to me. And God is going to shine through all of this. His will is going to be done regardless of the hate and the stuff that has happened in our community.